everyone, it's Emma. Today I'm talking about my 5 favorite fandom memories. This video is paid promotion with Disney Book Group to celebrate the release of Ship It by Britta Lundin. This book came out on May 1st. It is in stores now, so if you would like to go get yourself a copy of this beautiful book with this beautiful cover, look at this guys, then it is available to you in stores. You can go get yourself a copy. This book is the debut novel of Britta Lundin, and I've heard it compared to Geekerella and Fangirl, which are 2 of my favorite books. Anytime a book is compared to Fangirl like Geekerella was, I want to read it. And then Geekerella became a favorite, so anytime a book is compared to Geekerella, I want to read it. Not only that, but this book centers around Comic-Con and fandom, and event season is about to be starting. BookOn is happening soon, VidCon is happening soon, Comic-Con is happening soon, so it's kind of the perfect time to read this book. In this book, we follow this 16-year-old hardcore fangirl named Claire. She is obsessed with this show called Demon Heart, and she goes to a panel with the actors from the show. But when she asks her question to the main character concerning his character about whether he is gay or not, the actor kind of laughs it off. Claire, of course, is very upset because she has written this entire fan fiction that centers around the character being gay and having a love interest with his male co-star. Obviously, this is devastating to Claire and her headcanon and her fangirl feels, but when the video of the Q&A itself goes viral, the people involved in the show hire Claire to help do a little bit of damage control, to help reconcile their image with the LGBTQ+ community. And so Claire joins the rest of their publicity tour, is a part of all the Comic-Con type events. When I heard this description, when I heard what the book was about and how it completely centers around fandom things, I immediately wanted to share some of my own fandom related memories. So that is what I'm doing today. So without further ado, let's jump into my 5 favorite fandom memories. I don't know how many of you guys realize this, but I've been like such a nerd for most of my life. I was homeschooled, so I didn't really deal with the pressure of liking popular things. Honestly, I was pretty oblivious to pop culture until I was like 17. I grew up with older brothers who watched anime. When I was a teenager, I became obsessed with Doctor Who, and of course, I've always been a big book nerd. So I picked 5 memories that stand out to me as very nostalgic, that kind of give me butterflies whenever I think of them, and that are fandom related. And I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about them. The first one happened when I was maybe 14, I wanna say. My cousin, who's been my best friend since I was like 3 years old. Me and her got tickets to go see Taylor Swift. It was the Red Tour. Opening for her was Ed Sheeran. Now these were the days when like no one really knew who Ed Sheeran was except for A-Team. I was the like one person in the whole stadium who was singing every word to You Need Me, I Don't Need You. So of course the concert itself was so much fun, but the memory that I'm actually thinking of happened after the concert. So here we are, 2 teenage girls walking out of this concert, just chilling, not expecting anything, kind of on a high because the concert was so good. And then we pause because these doors start to open up and a car comes out. And I look over and I look in the car and the window is see-through, and sitting in the window of the car is Ed Sheeran. Red hair and all. So of course I'm just kind of standing there holding my poster. I didn't wave or anything, and he made direct eye contact with me, smiled, and waved to me. In the moment, I think I just kind of stood there and was like, for some reason, that small moment of making eye contact with Ed Sheeran and having him wave at me is like one of my favorite nerdy moments ever. Even though nothing happened, he just waved at me. It just blessed my fangirl heart. But of course, no one actually appreciated this story until years later when everyone knew who Ed Sheeran was. At the time, even my cousin who I was with, I don't think like had any kind of reaction. My next fandom related memory is a bookish one. So I didn't actually get into YA books until I was 17, 18. When I started BookTube was about 6 months after I started reading YA books, and the first series that got me into YA that made me a hardcore fan was Sarah J Maas's Throne of Glass series. Now no, I don't really read Sarah J Maas books anymore, but this memory still holds a very dear place in my heart because it was the first time that I ever met one of my favorite authors. It was the release of Empire of Storms, so not really that long ago. I think it's been like a year and a half since then, and I had just started my BookTube channel. I had never been to an author signing before. I had never been to any kind of bookish event. I got there way too late, got a ticket that was way late in line, so I was waiting until almost 12 at night, I think, to get my book signed. I had brought my copy of Heir of Fire to get signed because that was my favorite of the series, and it was my first experience being in a room of people who all love the same book and are like super passionate about it. I remember seeing people give Sarah gifts, seeing people give her things that they made for her, and seeing her excitement and hearing her talk about the book. There was a Q&A. It was just all really new and exciting for me. I had written her a letter telling her how much her book A Court of Mist and Fury meant to me, how helpful it was to me at a time that I was really struggling. Finally got up there, and somehow we got into talking about karate. I'm a black belt in Tang Soo Do. I grew up doing karate since the time I was 7 years old. So one of the reasons that I liked Sarah J Maas's books is because the research she did for some of the self-defense stuff is from Taekwondo. Taekwondo was developed from Tang Soo Do. Tang Soo Do is a more traditional style, which is what I did, but there's a lot of similarities because Taekwondo came out of Tang Soo Do. My nerd is showing just a little bit right now. Anyways, somehow I ended up mentioning to Sarah that I'm a black belt, my brothers are black belts, we grew up doing karate together, and that I really appreciated how the self-defense in the book is literal things that my master taught me growing up. For example, if someone has gotten a hold of you, instead of screaming help, I've always been told to yell fire, because fire will get people's attention. Fire means they could be in danger themselves, and as terrible as that is, it is better at getting someone's attention than yelling help. So I was talking about this to Sarah J Maas. She of course thought it was super cool that my brothers and I all did karate, and she wanted to know if we just beat on each other at home, which by the way we did not. Her friend does Taekwondo, and that's why she was able to get some directly from the source self-defense type stuff. And I gave her my letter and I told her that I had some things that I wanted to thank her for, but I couldn't say it in person because obviously I was super nervous. I honestly don't remember anything else that I said. I'm sure I was blabbering. I think I was shaking. But after I got my book signed, I got a picture with her. She had signed it, "You are awesome," which of course I thought was really cool because if your favorite author thinks that you're awesome, then you're pretty much winning at life. And I promptly walked out of the Barnes & Noble and burst into tears. My mom was witness to all of this, so I do have proof that I just walked out and sobbed my eyes out. At the time, it just meant so much to me to meet an author that had had such an impact on my life. Even though I don't necessarily read Sarah J Maas's books anymore, I think I'll always think of that as such a fond memory because it was the first time I met any author, let alone one of my favorite authors, and it was such a nice interaction. Nowadays, when I meet authors, I don't really get nervous anymore. It's more like, oh, hey, cool, you wrote this book that I love. But it was so fun to be younger, to be not in the BookTube world, and to have like those fangirly feels. Speaking of favorite authors, my next fangirl memory just happened last summer. I think it was about a year ago, actually, almost a year exactly. Maggie Stiefvater and Courtney C. Stevens did this writing seminar where they kind of went around the country and they talked about what it is like to write a novel, how to start, how to finish. And I was super excited to go because obviously The Raven Boys is my favorite series. And the idea that I would get to learn about writing from the person who wrote my favorite series was so exciting for me. But at the same time, I had no idea what I was getting into. It's like an 8 or 9 hour long seminar. Now, my high school experience was really intense. I learned some incredible things. I did a lot of studying and it definitely made me who I am. But this writing seminar is is still one of the single best learning experiences that I've ever had. I don't know if it's particularly fangirly, because the only thing that I really fangirled over during the day was the fact that Maggie Stiefvater retweeted me. I think I tweeted a picture or something and she retweeted me. So I did have that little fangirl moment, but it was more like the idea of learning all this incredible stuff about how to write a book from one of my favorite authors was just so cool. The best experience. Like, I took a lot of writing courses growing up, and I took some really intense writing courses growing up. The things that I learned in this writing seminar will definitely be what helps me finish a book that I want to publish someday. And if that isn't one of the coolest memories, I don't know what is. The fourth memory is for those Doctor Who fans out there. I think this is possibly the nerdiest of all the memories because I squealed. I think this is the only time I've ever actually like screamed. This is the story of how I surprise met Arthur Darvill in New York City. If you don't know, Arthur Darvill played Rory, one of the 11th Doctor's companions in Doctor Who. The 11th Doctor is my favorite Doctor, and Rory is one of my favorite companions. And I was definitely not expecting to meet him when I went to see a Broadway show. Once is a movie and they turned it into a musical that ran on Broadway for a little while, and I've been looking forward to seeing it for so long. There was a lot of hype about the music. It is very unique because the actors play their instruments on stage. There isn't like a typical orchestra. It is just the actors on stage with their guitars, with their mandolins, with their violins. It is super cool. It's to this day one of the best shows I've seen, and I've seen a lot of Broadway shows. But what I was not expecting is that Arthur Darvill, who I didn't know could sing, who I didn't know played guitar, would be playing the lead in the show. So I show up to the theater, I'm standing in line outside with my mom, and I'd make a joke that the guy on the poster looks like Rory from Doctor Who. And we were like, ha ha ha, funny, he looks similar. We get inside, we sit down in our seats, and the actors are all like standing on stage because before the show starts, they just kind of get up there and play. It's a very unique kind of Broadway show. And I'm looking at this guy who's playing guitar, who's obviously one of the lead characters. I look down in the playbill and I'm like, wait a second. What is Rory's name in real life? What's this actor's name? So I whip out my phone and I Google it, and it showed up as Rory Arthur Darvill. Then I look down at my playbill and it says Arthur Darvill playing Guy, the main character. This was one of the best moments because as soon as I made the connection that it actually was Rory from Doctor Who, I turned to my mom and I gasped out loud in the theater. Like, I turned to my mom and was like, oh! But then the actual show starts, and it starts with him singing this song called Leave, and I was mind blown by how freaking talented Arthur Darvill is. Like, I didn't even know he could sing, let alone sing like that. I don't know if you can find on YouTube videos of Arthur Darvill singing during the show, but he did do some performances like out in places where you're allowed to videotape, so you might be able to find a YouTube video of Arthur Darvill singing this song called Leave. It was so good that my mom and I turned to each other when it ended and we were just kind of in awe. And then comes the cherry on top. When we leave the theater, of course, you can wait outside for the actors to come out. In this show, all of the actors were coming out, so I waited. I got my playbill signed by all the actors, and then I got a picture with Arthur Darvill, which I will insert somewhere if I can find it. I had long hair at the time, so I probably look a bit different. I was really impressed with his cool sunglasses and his outfit, but as soon as I walked away, I like screamed on the streets of New York. He probably heard it, to be honest. My only regret is that my brothers were not with me because they would have appreciated it so much. They would have loved seeing how talented Arthur Darvill was, and to this day, I really wish they'd gotten to see him in the role. My fifth and final favorite fandom memory, how's that for an alliteration, is a bit more general than the other ones. It's just BookOn 2017. So many fandom fangirl moments happened during BookOn 2017 that I can't even pick a favorite one. It was just kind of the entire experience. Like meeting Sarah J Maas was my first experience meeting an author, BookOn was my first experience with a book event, to which I've now been to a bunch of, all of which I've loved for different reasons, but I think BookOn BookOn holds a really special place in my heart. It was when I met all of the BookTube crew for the first time. It was when I hung out with Jessie for the first time. It was when I hung out with one of my friends, Mason, for the first time. I got to meet V.E. Schwab and see V.E. Schwab's reaction to the tattoo that Mason has from the Darker Shade of Magic series. I got to see Lee Bardugo on a panel with Holly Black talking about writing, talking about their books. And I think it's my favorite because it was the first experience like that I have. Since then, I've had a lot of amazing bookish event memories. I'm anticipating having some more memories this month with BEA or Book Expo and BookOn coming up. But everything that happened in those 2 days was just magical and wonderful, and I still think about it all the time. I kind of wish that I had vlogged it so that I had those memories documented, but at the time I knew that I would be way too overwhelmed to vlog it. Going into BookOn, I didn't really know what to expect, but the entire experience was so positive and so much fun. Like, it was just fun and exciting and fangirly, and for that reason it's forever going to be one of my favorite memories. In general, not just fandom related. I get happy just thinking about it even now, almost a year later. So those are all of the fandom favorite memories that I'm going to talk about today. If you're wondering why there are no Harry Potter memories on this list, it's because I previously did a video with my mom where we talked about a bunch of our Harry Potter memories because my family has so many Harry Potter memories. So if you want to hear more about those, I will link it down below. You can go check that out. Don't forget, if you want some more wonderful fandom fangirliness, to go get yourself a copy of Ship It by Britta Lundin. I'll leave a link to the book down below in case you want some easy access. Like I said before, it is the perfect time to read it because it centers around cons, and all the cons are coming up. I'm definitely going to be reading it, so if you would like to join me, then go check it out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing some of my memories and learning more about me and what a nerd I am. I hope you have a lovely day or night or afternoon wherever you are, whatever you are doing, and I will see you in my next video.